Margaret Nash is a forensic engineer at a company that specializes in architectural restoration. "If there's something wrong with a building, I'll find it," she said. 2 years ago, her sense of discernment led her to the East Midtown neighborhood of Turtle Bay, where she and her boyfriend paid just under $400,000 for a studio in a 1930s co-op building on 2nd Avenue and East 50th Street. Without exactly boasting, Ms. Nash, 27, painted a dreamlike picture of her home. It has high, coffered ceilings and a sweeping view of the East River. "The sunlight just pours in the morning it wakes me up," she said. The 13-story building's lobby is old-school Art Deco with the terracotta floor and stained glass doors. "An actual person runs the elevator. We honestly fell in love with how clean everything was, not just in the building but in the neighborhood," Ms. Nash, who had previously lived on the Upper East Side, went on. "You couldn't see a speck of gum glued to the sidewalk." Now she has a choice of 3 subway lines to her job in Chelsea. "You could throw a stone on 2nd Avenue and hit 5 different restaurants," she said. "Everything you want is within a 5-minute walk." Ms. Nash's starry-eyed vision of Turtle Bay, which extends from East 43rd to East 53rd Street and from Lexington Avenue to the East River, may have something to do with her status as a newcomer. Residents of longer standing say they are wrestling with the neighborhood's many changes. "Stores, particularly mom-and-pop shops that I relied on for years, are now replaced by banks and drugstores and Starbucks," said Candia Brents, a product designer and consultant who has lived in Turtle Bay since 1995 and runs her businesses from her 1-bedroom apartment on East 49th Street, for which she pays $3,200 a month. "It used to be that anything west of 3rd Avenue became the business side of Midtown," Ms. Brents said. "Now, with so many bars and restaurants popping up, the rest is changing. People from out of the neighborhood take limos to have brunch on 2nd Avenue. But Turtle Bay still offers Midtown convenience at a relatively affordable price," heavy stress on the adverb. And while cold towers and cavernous chain stores numb other parts of the city, Turtle Bay continues to have a strong character, thanks to an active neighborhood association and its most prominent landmark, the United Nations. The modernist riverfront complex, with its newly renovated buildings, sets the tone for the neighborhood, which is international even by Manhattan standards. In Turtle Bay, you can study Spanish at Instituto Cervantes, admire Asian art at the Japan Society and enjoy pickled herring in the cafe of the Norwegian Seamen's Church. Foreign consular buildings with their mix of architectural styles help keep the streetscape human-scaled and visually perky. Even the selection at the Ideal Cheese Shop on 1st Avenue and 52nd Street is a nod to neighborhood diversity. Michael Benetti, an owner of the 63-year-old specialty store, said he mainly sticks to European cheeses to suit the tastes of his many customers who work at the UN. "It's a good niche for us," he said. Mr. Benetti said he is benefiting from an influx of cheese-loving millennials to the neighborhood, the sunny side of development. As for the dark side, he said he does enough wholesale trade to ensure that his shop would stay afloat if the rent became unaffordable when his lease comes up for renewal in 4 years. Keeping Turtle Bay small-scale and personable has been the mission of the Turtle Bay Association for 60 years. The organization was founded in 1957 to quash attempts to widen East 49th Street, and it has collaborated with other community groups to rezone side streets for low-rise housing and improve neighborhood parks. Lately it has succeeded in modifying the rezoning plan that will bring taller commercial towers to 78 blocks of Midtown East. including a stretch of Turtle Bay. An adjustment curtails building heights on 3rd Avenue from East 47th to East 52nd Streets. Lee Frankel, a Turtle Bay Association member who has lived in the area since 1967, said she lost the view from her north-facing windows to development, but remains philosophical. The neighborhood is responding to people's wants and needs, she noted, referring to the arrival of two popular restaurants on 2nd Avenue, The Smith and La Pecora Bianca, as well as the evaporation of antiques shops and grocery stores. It's New York, she said. If you can't stand change, you need to move somewhere else. Turtle Bay is dressed in brownstone, limestone, red brick, white brick, terracotta, granite, and acres of glass. Its buildings tell better stories than Scheherazade. The palatial River House, 1931, for instance, which sits on a bluff 40 feet above the East River between 52nd and 53rd Streets, is as famous for the celebrities the cooperative rejected, Joan Crawford, Gloria Vanderbilt, as for those who bought in, Henry Kissinger, Uma Thurman. Turtle Bay Gardens is a cluster of 20 1860s townhouses on East 48th Street and East 49th Street, between 2nd and 3rd Avenues, whose backyards were united in the 1920s. Dorothy Thompson, a plaque describes her as the intrepid girl reporter, and Katharine Hepburn were former occupants. The composer Stephen Sondheim and the actress-turned-designer Mary-Kate Olsen currently live there. A Tudor-style building at 225 to 227 East 49th Street, redesigned in 1929 for the violinist Ephraim Zimbalist and his wife, the Metropolitan Opera soprano Alma Gluck, is now a rental property owned and occupied by Angela Paolini, whose father ran Louise Jr., a popular former neighborhood restaurant. Ms. Paolini recalled getting misdirected mail for Keith Hernandez, when the former Mets player lived down the block at Sterling Plaza. Mr. Hernandez was enticed to live in the 1985 postmodern building at 255 East 49th Street by Fred Wilpon, who in addition to being the majority owner of the Mets was one of Sterling Plaza's developers. Rosie O'Donnell bought the triplex penthouse there in July. And in 2001, the audacious square black column called Trump World Tower, at 845 United Nations Plaza rose more than 350 feet higher than the United Nations Secretariat building across the avenue. Trump wanted that building to be gold, said Ms. Frankel of the Turtle Bay Association. Can you imagine? Vincent Smith, a real estate agent with Halstead, said Turtle Bay's status, prices, and celebrity quotient have surged with three recent buildings: the Halcyon, 2014, a 32-story condominium at 305 East 51st Street developed on the site of a 2008 crane accident that killed 7 people, 50 United Nations Plaza, 2015, a 43-story luxury tower designed by Norman Foster, and the Sutton, 2016, a 30-story Toll Brothers development at 959 First Avenue. Residential buildings sprouting up to higher altitudes include a 64-story shimmering ribbon at 100 East 53rd Street, another Foster and Partners project, a 64-story glass and terracotta tower at 138 East 50th Street, and a 49-story shard at 131 East 47th Street. All three buildings are on the western side of the district, close to Midtown workplaces and Grand Central Terminal. Turtle Bay, for me, is a great crossroads, Mr. Smith said. You have all the office buildings coming up as part of the Midtown East development, a lot of people are looking there as an easy way to walk to work. Despite a boost in its luxury market, Turtle Bay is considered one of Manhattan's better buys. According to Property Shark, between January 1 and December 6, 2017, the median sales price of homes was $893,700, a year-on-year decrease of 10% based on 396 transactions. Of 54 neighborhoods in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens, the site ranked Turtle Bay 39th in median sales price. The most expensive was Tribeca, at $4,683,950, the least expensive, Bedford-Stuyvesant, at $799,000. As of January 8, the real estate site StreetEasy calculated the median rent of a one-bedroom apartment in Turtle Bay at $3,200, based on 113 available listings and a map that extends the southern border to 42nd Street. 200 listings in Turtle Bay were featured on Zillow as of January 8. They ranged from a one-bedroom co-op on East 51st Street, priced at $315,500, to a four-bedroom duplex penthouse condo with a private swimming pool at 50 United Nations Plaza priced at $56 million, a bargain compared to its original asking price of $70 million. Turtle Bay is an enclave with its own surprising pockets. Beekman Place, a two-block stub between 49th and 50th Streets east of 1st Avenue, where Irving Berlin lived for more than 40 years, his home was sold to the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, has the scrubbed, hushed perfection of a movie set. Peter Detmold Park, a patch at 454 East 51st Street with a dog run, includes a bridge that juts over the FDR and connects to a paved slice of Riverside. Amster Yard is a courtyard and sculpture garden at 211 East 49th Street with original and reconstructed 19th-century buildings at the entrance of Instituto Cervantes. And Greenacre Park is a refuge at 217 East 51st Street with honey locust trees and a 25-foot waterfall. Turtle Bay has no public schools. Residents are zoned for elementary and middle schools near its borders and, like all New Yorkers, attend high school throughout the 5 boroughs. P.S. 59, Beekman Hill International, at 233 East 56th Street serves about 620 students in 1st through 5th grades. On 2016-17 state tests, 77% met standards in English versus 40% statewide, 80% met standards in math versus 45% statewide. J.H.S. 104, Simon Barrack Junior High School, at 330 East 21st Street serves more than 1,100 students in 6th through 8th grades. On state tests, 67% met standards in English versus 41% statewide, 68% met standards in math versus 33% statewide. A nearby secondary school, the High School of Art and Design, at 245 East 56th Street enrolls about 1,500 students in 9th through 12th grades. The average 2015-16 SAT scores, the last for which data was available, were 479 for critical reading and 464 for mathematics, compared with 494 and 508 statewide. Grand Central Terminal, at 42nd Street and Park Avenue, provides access to the 4, 5, 6, 7, and S trains, as well as Metro North Railroad. The 4, 6, E and M trains stop at the Lexington Avenue/51 St Street MTA station. Buses are available on the M15, M42, M50, M101, M102, and M103 lines. Named for a cove that was later filled in, Turtle Bay has a history that is as disjointed as an exquisite corpse. Whether the name was a homage to actual reptiles is dubious. It is more likely a corruption of the Dutch word doodle, or bent blade, referring to the inlet's shape. This little neighborhood has been a 17th-century rural seat, an 18th-century shipbuilding site, a 19th-century industrial center with stockyards, breweries, and tenements, and a 20th-century gathering place for writers, musicians, and artists.